Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for what is going to be a joyful video concerning Cardano ADA. We're going to be giving you the bull case for Cardano and actually how you could see Cardano's price from where it currently is today double, so go up 100+% in the next 3 to 6 months. We're going to be getting into that in this video. I will be doing timestamps on this video because we're going to be looking at the price and doing a sort of price analysis and price prediction. You guys will know on the last couple of Cardano videos that we did, we were looking for a pullback right around what could be a potential neckline. This is going to set up for continuation to the upside potentially, and is in line with our kind of crypto risk on macroeconomic overall outlook over the next sort of 3 to 6 months. So we're going to be breaking all that down, so stay tuned for that. I have done 2 interviews this week that I'll release next week with 2 projects. One is yet to, or was one of the founding companies of Cardano, but they're yet to launch the product that they're sort of coming up with. And another one is an old friend, somebody that I've interviewed multiple times, that is a DApp within the Cardano ecosystem. And having when I speak to builders, whether it be Imperta Lang, Niels, who's bringing Python to Cardano, or whoever it may be, I always get excited about the prospects and the future of ADA. And the 2 interviews that I've done are killer interviews, guys. Great, really going to educate people on the space and what's coming for it. And let me just tell you, you are so early in terms of Cardano's DeFi ecosystem and Cardano generally that people don't yet quite understand what's coming down the road. It's kind of like the people that probably saw motor cars driving around for the first time, or automobiles driving around for the first time, were kind of thinking, what the hell, what's going on here? And didn't really understand that in the world that we live in today, everyone is driving around in automobiles, cars, without even thinking about what they're doing. Whereas years ago, it would the kind of thought that, this is how the future would evolve. Would have been largely alien. I think blockchain is on a similar trajectory. We're all going to use it. Metcalfe's law is going to come into play, so on and so forth. All things we've spoken about in previous videos. But I just wanted to drop that. Spoke to 2 projects last week. Got more Cardano projects hopefully coming up. If you are a Cardano project out there that is building within the space, feel free to get at me on Twitter or for any other means. It could be Calendly. And we can look to work something out, because I'm all about educating people on this space. So what I want to do, guys, to sort of kick the video off, before we get into the price, I'll leave timestamps. If you're only here for the price prediction, feel free to skip to where the price prediction section is noted. I want to start off by talking, and we've covered it in great detail, about obviously what's taken place with the SEC charging Kraken in regards to essentially facilitating staking products when perhaps they shouldn't have been, without securities license and a number of other things. Now, this was really doom and gloom news when it broke, and I can see why. Certainly when I first took it in, I thought, wow, following Brian Armstrong's tweet, which was kind of a hint to Gensler's news following it, we're hearing rumors the SEC would like to get rid of crypto staking in the US for retail customers. I hope that's not the case, as I believe it would be a terrible path for the US if it was allowed to happen. So they're going after exchanges that are offering staking services, not blockchains that staking is a part of their consensus. So I think this is actually good for the blockchain networks, because it's going to increase decentralization, certainly for something like Cardano. Kraken did offer Cardano staking, so they will no longer do that. Is there a negative from this? Well, maybe people may not buy with Cardano on Kraken because they won't be able to stake it. But then again, actually, there's quite a few silver linings to what Gensler has brought forward, because, okay, decentralization of the network's one. It's going to encourage self-custody. Gensler said things like, not your keys, not your crypto. I'm not Team Gensler, by the way, guys, whatsoever, or the United States government, for that matter of fact, or the SEC, or the federal, any of these government organizations. I'm just saying that the initial news was obviously deemed very, very bearish initially. However, it shows that this industry is being taken very, very seriously. And it's my belief that in order for us to get to where I believe we're going, the industry has to be regulated. The US, the UK, members of the European Union, other countries out there, other nations, other continents, other jurisdictions are not going to allow crypto to just exist within their country with no regulations whatsoever. And actually, to be quite honest with you, in certain areas, certainly when it comes to centralized exchanges, there's need for regulation. DEXs, no. Let DeFi be DeFi. Let it be, experimental and this kind of bubbling pot of creativity and ideas and catastrophe in many respects. But when it comes to centralized organizations that are facilitating certain products in the crypto space, there needs to be scrutiny and I think regulation. We've seen what happens with Celsius. We saw what happened with BlockFi. We saw what happened with Gemini and obviously the Genesis trading. And now we're seeing, and then obviously FTX. So the SEC, I think, have a right to say, look, if you want to offer staking, you need to do it in the correct manner and be totally transparent and upfront. Now, over-regulation, which is something they may do, like what does this mean for myself as a stake pool operator? Obviously, I'm in the UK, so it's a little bit different, but I think there'll be a broad sweep. Over-regulation, which I'm going to play this clip of Charles Hoskinson talking about, would be detrimental. It would be at the cost of many people. But I actually think that it's not an attack on Cardano. It's an attack on centralized exchanges following a scrutinizing of central exchanges following the catastrophes that we've seen follow it. When you break it down, and I just want to say this again, I'm not team regulation, right? I think regulation in certain areas is needed. Call me a non-libertarian for saying that, but I'm not 100% against regulation. I'm not team regulation, but I do think in certain areas, if you're offering something, there needs to be a standard that makes sure you offer what you're saying you're doing, which is the issue that we saw with exchanges that have came previously. And a lot of them have offered staking services, Gemini being one, through Genesis Trading. I don't think there was full transparency there. And it's these guys like Brian Armstrong. He is obviously going to be gutted if they don't allow US users to stake because they make a percentage and commission on it, along with Kraken. So I want to just play this clip very quickly of Charles Hoskinson talking about if regulations go bad, and then we're going to do the price prediction. Again, so early days for Cardano, certainly its ecosystem and where it's going. We're moving from a speculative space into one that is used and sees real world usage and utility. That is all still to come. We're nowhere near it yet. Again, you're the guy, I'm the guy watching the automobile going past going, that's strange, but eventually it becomes sort of commonplace in society. Blockchain is exactly that. Let's play the clip, guys, and then let's get into the price prediction.
If regulation goes in an uncomfortable and wrong way for our industry, this might end up having to be the way that people run stake pools in the United States. Or they could use contingent staking to blacklist US delegations. So you have a regulated and unregulated set. Welcome to really bad regulation. This is the route that we're going down. And until Congress passes a law, basically reining in very unreasonable agencies, we're probably going to be dealing with this for the next 12, 24 months. So we're tracking it on our side. There's certainly a lot of great technology that can be brought to bear to try to optimize and reduce the overhead and make the life of an SPO better. It's important to point out, as it stands right now, it does not seem that any complaint about the Ethereum custodial staking model is transitive to the Cardano liquid non-staking model. And it's certainly something that should be litigated if somebody asserts that, because I think it's completely wrong and there's no facts and circumstances to equivocate the two. I think we fall under the same work package model as Bitcoin mining pools, which have been in operation for almost 13 years in our industry without incident or complaint. But obviously there's going to be a national discussion now about these things, especially now that Kraken and others are getting involved. It does not appear that there's any attempt to say, oh, well, staking mechanics somehow now make the underlying asset a security. You'll probably see a lot of FUD over Twitter, Reddit, and other places saying, oh, well, if staking is a security, that must mean the underlying asset is. So Ether is now a security or ADA is now a security. Let's be very clear. You can take wheat, which is a commodity, or gold, a commodity, and put it into some sort of package or structuring where that package is a security or that activity that you're doing with it is regulated. But that doesn't make wheat or gold a security. So you don't have that transitivity there where what you do with stake pools could infer the underlying asset has a problem. And we haven't seen any attempt to do that at the moment.
So again, just reiterating, what's been said by the SEC is they're going after centralized exchanges. Will we end up in some sort of a certainly in the US uh, phase where they ultimately regulate stake pools? It's quite likely, actually, or there'll be some sort of registry or something along those lines. We actually did say earlier as well that regulations, give Bitcoin more of a case. Now, I'm not a Bitcoin maxi. I think I'm far more excited about smart contract blockchains, layer ones, layer zeros, all these sort of things than I am Bitcoin. I think there's more scope for usage there, and I think that's what's going to drive the underlying value. But there is I don't think Bitcoin's going to win, but there is a case for it, and regulations actually enforce that. So now that I've rambled on about this sort of latest news and how it's non-effective to Cardano, let's dive into a little bit of a price prediction. I think potentially you're looking at Cardano coming back to round about 75 cents over the next 6 or so months. Let me go and minimize my face somewhat. I think this is actually quite likely. I think this news kind of gives credibility actually to the cryptocurrency market as an industry. It's initially deemed pretty horrific. And we were kind of expecting a pullback on Bitcoin. We're also expecting a pullback on Cardano. Now, we did say that there's a likelihood that it dribbles slightly up, and I'd have liked to have seen this, creating a neckline and then potentially looking at a reverse head and shoulders, which would be potentially a trend reversal pattern. We've seen this on the sort of other side of things. We've had sort of reversal indicators or things that have led us to believe a reversal was coming for the likes of USDT dominance, which is stablecoin dominance. We've looked at the dollar, which is currently going through a period of strength, which was all predicted. We've looked at Bitcoin, which we actually quite like the look of, and we're looking for a pullback for before this SEC news was even a thing. So I think Cardano is largely going to go with that flow. I would like to accumulate more Cardano. We did have a meeting with my Patreons on the 5th of January where we actually bought crypto for the first time in over a year, and Cardano was one of those cryptos. But what do I think you are looking at here, ladies and gentlemen? So there's a few things that Cardano needs to do. This is what I'm personally wanting to see. There's always the alternative that, something could go horribly wrong. And I think we're in a very tricky investment landscape. But if you've got a downtrend, which is just a concession of lower lows and lower highs, in order for this to now become an uptrend, you need to, if we map this out, just in its simplest terms, and we'll use a weekly chart for it. Could almost say there's a bit of an Elliott wave theory structure here. You need to do this. So this pullback would give you that lower low. Okay. Then you need to go on and put in a higher high. So you'd need to sort of run back up to the 60 cents level, then come down and set up for more continuation. This is what we need to see. And actually the structure here that we've potentially got, taking all this off, could be exactly what we're looking for in regards to a reverse head and shoulders. The FTX spill has largely been retraced for most blockchains out there, which I think is bullish. And I think potentially you've got some sort of head and shoulders forming here. Now, it's pretty crap that it didn't quite dribble up to where, we kind of were looking at it dribbling to. And actually, one reason that we knew Cardano was due for a pullback, first of all, you have this kind of marginally higher high structure that was across the board. Bitcoin looked like it was ready for the dollar, looked like it was looking for some strength. You've had these breakouts across the board. And actually, if you look at most altcoins, they're at significant levels of what was support now acting as resistance. And they're likely, in my opinion, going to coil up ready for that continuation. And once you've cleared this period here, you've got big gaps of inefficiency in regards to the price that I think get filled rather quickly. I remember tracking this for Cardano, and we did say if you lose this, you've got this huge gap of inefficiency that you're going to slip straight through. You will likely, providing that things go in the way that we believe they are likely going to go to. So we're in the camp, after not being in the camp of buying the dip, of now buying the dip. The question is how low does the dip go, and are you going to be too greedy and miss it? So the cryptos that we've accumulated here are not cryptos we're looking to sell. We're not looking to trade what is supposed to be a long-term investment. for a few reasons. One, there's no guarantee you're going to be able to do that successfully. And two, I quite frankly don't want the headache. I do trade separately. I have method for doing that. You know, becoming part of a team that does that in a different manner. And that's a totally different pot to my investment pot. But Cardano, trends do not go up in a straight line. You can see that this was, you'll have a bullish divergence here as well on the RSI. This was waning, right? And if we do volume profile, you'll see actually, where was the spikes in volume? It was on the sell side. This shows you that the sellers were in control of this. This is very expected. Almost forget about the news from Gensler and stuff like that. It's largely just noise. And like Charles Hoskinson said, there's a large amount of FUD involved in it. Okay. So what I'd like to see is Cardano coming down and doing something like this. And then breaking up. You're likely going to bump into congestion in this area, but coiling up above here, ready to set you up for what is going to be moving back to a weekly chart and looking at key levels of significance. The next area in which I think you're going to run to. This is what we need, guys. And then you'll likely get your pullback and then set up for continuation. Potentially. There's a lot of other factors that need to go into this. Right now, we're just calling for knowing what's coming over the next 3 to 6 months fundamentally for ADA, potentially lining up with the macroeconomic outlook. Certainly, if we continue to get this lower inflation, we continue to get points along the way that suggest this, that there will be pivotal points. Remember, we don't think that the yield curve is going to play out until uninversion. So I think you're going to have a period of dollar strength, which was called for, very talking about key levels. Depending on where this goes to, you know, you could be looking at, I don't want to do cross-market analysis in this video. I just want to focus on ADA and the path forward. So Cardano is likely going to pull back somewhat. It's kind of interesting because I'm a little bit unsure. Get rid of that. Typically, I wouldn't like to see some sort of a run of the left shoulder, okay? And we want to see that compression. But it could, you know, this is what I'd like to see. And then you're going to coil up likely in all this sort of price block. And once you've cleared it, you know, there's a lot of room to run. So this is what really we're looking at. And people go, oh, that's real messy TA. TA doesn't need to be neat, guys. Maybe it does from a viewer standpoint, an ease of understanding standpoint. But this is potentially what we're looking at. Now, the alternative is, of course, something major kicks off, geopolitical risk, whatever it may be. I don't think this is news that is going to be like the next Black Swan FTX. I really don't think so. I think crypto was largely due a pullback anyway. I think it's pulling back with the rest of the markets out there. You know, and it's kind of across the board, this pullback on a period of dollar strength. So I do think this is going to coil up. What sort of structure that is in the form of, we're yet to see. But personally, I'll be buying the dip for Cardano and looking to take it back to 50 cents and then potentially back to 75. And that's how I think we get there. Now, there's a lot that needs to sort of happen to get there. This is scenario forecasting. But just to kind of show you like key levels, you know, you can see how grinding, we may happen in some sort of structure like this where you are still grinding, then you're going to pop out the top of it. You run into your resistance, you flip that once resistance as support, and then you do something like this and you see that continuation. You can see key levels when you're running into support and resistance, you get areas of sort of, depending on what you do with them, you know, we didn't sort of express our opinion that this is what we need to see, this kind of laddering out, if you will, for ADA here. You need to break that. These are all levels that you need to try and get above, and you're probably going to do this in a kind of staircasing manner. That's what we're looking at. Back to some of these areas up here. But we will see what happens. You know, there's a lot coming for ADA. I think largely just to wrap the sort of staking news up, I don't think it's really that detrimental to Cardano. We already knew that staking was likely going to get scrutinized and regulated at some point. The sooner the better, in my opinion. It's never going to exist in this sort of world outside of some of these regulators' jurisdictions. So there we have it, guys. We did call for a pullback. You've got it. We didn't know that it was going to be on the back end of SEC news, which has likely caused retail fear. There was indicators for it, or sort of precursors for it. And here we are. So that's really what I've got for you guys. Look for potentially slightly lower, but I don't think this is going to hang around. I think once there's this sort of turn, it's really going to establish and come back with a vengeance. All I've got for you in this video, guys. If you enjoyed the content, a like is always appreciated, so is a comment. And I look forward to seeing each and every one of you in the next YouTube video. Have a fantastic Friday and a wonderful weekend. I'll see you all in the next one. Thanks a lot for watching, ladies and gents.